After wandering into the abyss for 45 years, Voyager, one of the world's farthest away and loneliest machines, just did something that nobody anticipated. It veered back. No, not physically. However, the data it sent carried something unmistakable. A disruption, a reflection, a loop that implies that it might have encountered something so alien and unaccounted for that the spacecraft's even older systems were momentarily confused, and there was neither a system flaw or an error message. A whisper came from the edge of space that matched a fear scientists had buried for years. Voyager 1. It's possible that it crossed a line that was not meant to exist, and in doing so, therefore, it might have proved that we were never completely alone in the night. What did it detect? Is it detectable anywhere? What does that imply for Earth? And why are some at NASA beginning to question the structure of space itself beyond the helipads? Let's get started on the descent into the unknown. In 1977, the spacecraft were launched with nothing but cosmic ambition and vintage technology. Both Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 were expected to last for years. Rather, they became immortals. Whereas every other machine that has ever traveled beyond Earth has been mute for a long time or shattered, the Voyagers kept moving past Jupiter, past Saturn, beyond the outer planets, and finally into something else never touched before: interstellar space. They only had 69 kilobytes of memory. Their processor was weaker than a modern calculator. And yet, they navigated gravity assists like acrobats in a silent void, slingshotting through the gas giants and beaming back data on moons, rings, magnetic fields, and plasma waves. Over time, engineers turned off heaters, cameras, and even scientific instruments. Each shutdown was a small funeral for a part of the mission. Voyager 1 nonetheless spoke up until recently, when it changed its voice. Scientists believed in the boundary of the heliopause for a long time, where our sun's influence ends and the galaxy begins. Voyager 1 crossed it in 2012 at a distance of 120 astronomical units from Earth. But when it did, something happened unexpectedly. The force of magnetism didn't change. The amount of particles rose. Yes, but the field's direction strangely remained constant. That shouldn't have happened. 2 years later, Voyager 2 went through the same thing. This shattered every model we had, and while NASA attempted to align the data, something darker began to emerge. The readings suggested that the interstellar medium wasn't behaving like we expected. Where it should have been dense, it was sparse. It was calm where it should have been turbulent. Worst of all, the magnetic patterns looked eerily structured, as if influenced in some way something planned, not accidental. Then, beginning in 2024, Voyager 1 sent a shaking transmission to the Deep Space Network. There was no noise. It was structureless, but patterned. The data stream included corrupted telemetry, repeated codes, and inexplicable resets. For weeks, NASA believed the spacecraft had lost all of its memory. But when the backup systems were put into operation, the transmission continued even from subsystems never programmed to send that kind of data. Engineers called it a loop of reflection, a signal that comes back from the void, altered in a way Voyager could not have generated independently. One veteran analyst described it off the record as like shouting into a canyon that shouldn't exist and hearing your own voice distorted by another person's breath. Some feared a breakdown inside. Others started thinking about a disturbing alternative. Voyager had reached an area of space where something was bending its signals or answering. Scientists dove into the corrupted signals, mapping them against cosmic ray surges, plasma wave patterns, and solar wind decay. What they discovered was chilling. The interference aligned perfectly in response to a sudden rise in cosmic ray particles from galactic space that ought to have been diverted by the heliosphere, but it suddenly surged as if directed. More troubling, an anomaly in the magnetic field appeared, a twist, a kink, something that shouldn't be present. It was as if Voyager 1 had passed through a membrane, and what lay beyond was reacting. A few suggested a pocket of dense interstellar plasma, while others spoke of something not natural, shaping theoretical concepts in the field previously reserved for science fiction. But the one truth that all teams agreed upon was this: the laws we thought governed space don't hold past the heliopause. Voyager's transmissions had become strange, once known, intelligent maybe not, but deliberate possibly. And in that possibility is the source of the fear. Because if this wasn't just space, what else is out there? After weeks of decoding. In the end, NASA released a heavily redacted statement regarding the anomaly on Voyager 1. They confirmed partial signal restoration, but declined to elaborate on the source of repeated data loops or the tampered with telemetry. Behind closed doors, however, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory had already convened a specialized task force bringing in experts from AI signal processing, astrophysics, and the theory of quantum fields. One internal source leaked that the transmission had non-random elements, oscillation patterns at frequencies beyond what Voyager 1 should be able to emit. Simply put, something in deep space was either distorting the signaling or riding on it. Even more troubling was the timing. The distortions began just after Voyager traversed a sudden decrease in cosmic radiation, something that should have no bearing on the software within the spacecraft. But what if an external factor had temporarily shielded it, or worse, examined it? With the signal mystery unresolved, theoretical physicists started to investigate Voyager's trajectory and environmental data. They discovered something deeply unsettling. The path taken by the spacecraft showed minuscule but recurring deviations that cannot be attributed to gravitational pull from known celestial bodies. Some postulated dark matter interactions, others suggested gravitational lensing by an unknown object. But one model, buried in a private research paper, proposed something far stranger: the presence of a spacetime distortion, not a wormhole or a black hole, but something brand new, like a flaw in the very structure of the universe. A place where information loops and matter behaves differently, responding to time erratically. If true, it would mean Voyager 1 had not only reached farther than intended, but had entered a different system of reality, a space in the universe where our laws of motion, light, and energy began to break down, and where something else operates under a wholly distinct set of guidelines. What further enhanced this discovery's chilling impact was what began happening to Voyager 2. Though millions of miles apart, the two spacecraft began to display synchronized deviations. Minor adjustments in signal timing, radiation exposure, and magnetic field direction occurred in parallel despite their different positions. Statistically, it shouldn't be possible. The odds of both crafts encountering identical disturbances in disparate parts of space bordered on impossible unless, of course, they weren't unrelated, unless something. A massive structure invisible to our eyes and instruments was interacting with both Voyagers at the same time. As a result, there was renewed speculation that what the Voyagers had reached wasn't merely a region, it was a boundary. And if there's a perimeter, there might be a center. And something at the center could have just noticed the knock. As more data was processed, a shift began to take hold, not in the numbers, but in the exchanges. Scientists who once dismissed artificiality now hesitated. Engineers who had maintained the Voyagers for decades admitted the behavior wasn't mechanical, it was responsive. Slowly, an intriguing consensus emerged in back-channel networks and whispered meetings. Voyager 1 may have encountered not intelligence in the cinematic sense of a message or spacecraft, but a subtle, environment-shaping engineering on a scale too vast to comprehend. The reflections of signals, the synchronized distortions, the magnetic anomalies in the field, they all suggested intervention or, at minimum, manipulation. What if Voyager wasn't just lurching along anymore? What if it had been incorporated into a different experiment, won by something that had been waiting patiently for us to extend far enough to be noticed? Voyager 1, silent for 45 years, was an ambassador to the stars, a moving fragment of human will encased in gold and binary. It carried our sounds, our greetings, and our hope that something out there might one day pay attention. But we never expected an answer not like this. Voyager has not just crossed a boundary of space. It has pierced something older, stranger, and far more intentional than anyone imagined, a place where time changes, signals reflect, and physics shakes. A place that does not behave like the rest of the cosmos, a place that watches back. When Voyager sent that distorted signal, a continuous cry across the void, it wasn't a malfunction. It was an answer, the kind that doesn't need words, the kind that proclaims, "We've seen you." Scientists can now debate the nature of the anomaly. They can analyze the patterns, twist the models, and redact the reports, but they cannot alter the basic truth. Voyager confirmed something we weren't prepared to face. Our solar system might not even be the edge. It may be a door, and someone or something has just opened it. If this has shaken you, if it sent a chill through your skin with the sense that the universe just grew smaller and darker at the same time, let this story become static. Subscribe in this direction. We chase the signals that others fear to hear. Switch on notifications because Voyager 1 may not be finished speaking yet. Share this video with someone who still believes deep space has no sound. Comment below, do you believe Voyager discovered something, or that something discovered Voyager?